As we continue looking at parenting and helping our children to develop through all the levels of maturation, I want you to know that I really appreciate the comments that you've been leaving and the fact that you're giving me feedback on the videos so far. It's encouraging to see that it's nice to have a pathway through the parenting journey, something that is cohesive and something that's helping you to see things from new perspectives. So please continue with your feedback. I enjoy it, I appreciate it, and it helps me put together the content for my next videos. In this video, we're looking at how do we develop our children through the concept of their own spiritual development. I think in order to really take a look at this, we have to have some kind of unifying concept or definition of what spirituality means. There's a lot of conflicting information out there. Some people address it through a specific religion and, staying guided by the tenets and the practices of that particular religion. Other people see it as a connection to a higher self, an eternal self, or a certain philosophy. But the way that I like to look at it is, what is giving us meaning here? What is giving us context for our overall human experience? It's very easy to get caught up in the day-to-day activities and the different periods of milestones and shifts and things we're doing and forget about the context of the really big picture of what are we all doing here and what is the meaning or what is the purpose of our own individual experience in the collective. So my view of what spirituality is, it's that context. It's about understanding the eternal nature of our own journey and understanding the eternal nature of the collective journey in human form. And when you start to pay a little bit more attention to what that means for yourself individually and for yourself as a parent, it helps you to guide your children into growing and maturing into their own understanding or exploration of these concepts for themselves. It's not a matter of right or wrong or good or bad. And that sentence is a spiritual concept. It's about taking out the idea that there's only one way to do something. It's about taking out the limited view that there's only one right path in raising children or in develop our own relationship with our spiritual self. So for you, it's about saying, what can I do to provide an environment in which my child values not only the day-to-day experiences of his or her life, but also values the overarching experiences of community, planet, participation, contribution, acceptance, growth, optimism, creativity, all of these other big things that can get overlooked when you're going to school and doing your homework and taking a bath and eating and playing in a sport and so on. Like, why are we doing all of this? What is the meaning of life? For me personally, the more time I spend in the energy realm, which is as I see our connectedness of all consciousness without this physical separation that we see when we're in human form, the more time I'm in that state of consciousness, the more I see that there is a unifying spiritual element to all of our human experiences. And when we are connected to that, when we understand that we're here to grow, when we're here to expand, when we're here to become more connected to being a loving soul, knowing that love expands us, love being having curiosity, having passion, having community, having relationships, having a connection to self-love and self-worth, having a connection to liking or expanding our like of anything is growing in our ability to love. When we understand that that's overriding everything that we're doing here, it helps us sometimes to take a step back from the day-to-day minutia and say, why am I doing this? Does this make sense? Does this sit well with my sense of value, my sense of what we're all experiencing here? Does it fit in with my sense of myself as a powerful individual, and does it fit in with my sense of unity among others? So spiritual growth sometimes I find to be what is interplayed within every other growth area that a child experiences. So their emotional development, their physical development, intellectual, social, financial, all of these developments have a backdrop of spirituality at play within it. Because inevitably, we all get to a point where we're questioning things. Why am I here? Who am I? Why did this happen? And if you can only stay within the construct and the perception that what's happening right in front of you is all that there is and there's not more to the story, you can feel isolated and you can get knocked over when things that are uncomfortable happen. And that can happen to children as well as to adults. If a child is trying out for a team and they don't get accepted, and that same child gets a test back and they didn't do well on it when they thought they did, and that same child watches a big fight between their parents, they can start to feel disconnected. They can start to feel unhappy. They might not be able to give words to it or context, but they might not know what this is all about. What am I doing here? Some kind of thread of spiritual wisdom and all of the optimism that it entwines can help your child find meaning even in those moments of challenge and difficulty. Even without moments of challenge and difficulty, nearly everyone has a day in their life or a moment or a decade or even all of their life when they question what they are doing here. What's their purpose? What's the meaning of their journey? I've given countless seminars over the last 10 years, which no matter how I name the workshop or the seminar, it always comes down to, let's help you figure out what makes your heart sing. What is your passion? Why did you leap into physical form in the first place? Because when you find that thing that drives you and gets you excited and gets you motivated and makes you really want to get up in the morning, it helps to balance all of the other stuff that you feel like you have less control over or is confusing or may make you feel isolated or disconnected. So if I keep seeing a recurring demand or interest for those seminars about what is your purpose, what are you doing here, if that recurs, even as other things ebb and flow around me in these last 10 years, the recurrence of it shows that it's innate. I don't care if someone is coming to the seminar and they're 16 years old or someone is coming to the seminar and they're 81. There's this thing that pops up when someone is either bored or tired of just things being ordinary. They want to understand the deeper roots, the deeper meaning. They want to feel connected to the value. They want to feel connected to their own legacy as though their life matters. And that's what having a spiritual backdrop to help your children to develop all of their maturations against. That's why it's so important. Because it gives your kids a sense of being valuable, that their life matters, that they're connected to something grand, that they are connected to something extraordinary, and that through certain choices, they're going to be able to unlock what that is for themselves. In this same 10-year period, another thing I've noticed is an increase of children bursting out with wisdom that we might only be able to find in some great ancient writings or something that one of the greatest historical philosophers of all times has written or spoken. And some of these concepts are just, coming forth, gurgling out of the mouth of a 4-year-old or the mouth of a 12-year-old, or I'm seeing children come up to their parents and giving really sensible and practical, eternally wise advice or opinions that just bring their parent back to, you're right. What am I doing here? Why am I getting so hung up? Why am I so serious? Why am I so fear-based when what this little master being has just said is the simple wisdom and the truth of it? You've probably noticed this happening more and more among children too. And what it is that those kids are experiencing is a developmental part of their soul that is just staying connected to the wisdom that they had when they were born. So whatever was going on in their journey, which oftentimes will separate us from that eternal wisdom that we all have within us, they stayed connected to it. And they don't have the filter that says, what I'm about to say isn't the way most people talk or think on earth. This is too different, so I'm going to keep it to myself. So it just came out as a pure truth because it is a truth and I'm still connected to it. And that's what we're seeing. So even though we think maybe that child is wiser than anyone around us, it isn't that they're wiser, it's that they didn't have the cord cut between them and that wisdom. And that wisdom is within you, and that wisdom is within your children. So part of providing the basis of spiritual maturation for your kids is to not saddle your children with things that will separate them from that wisdom. Wisdom brings a feeling of well-being, a feeling of safety, a feeling of abundance, a feeling of harmony, a feeling of optimism, a feeling of freedom. When you are spending a lot of time paying attention to things that have the absence of that wisdom, you're separating them little by little from their eternal wisdom. So the first role that you can bring is to be one that supports the concept of we are healthy, we have well-being, we are abundant, we are creative, we are free. If you are living in fear and telling them things or warning them or showing them things that are the opposite of that context, they're going to expand in their fear rather than stay connected to their joy. I know there's such a desire to keep our kids safe by warning them about everything that could possibly go wrong. But when you focus on something, it becomes a magnet. So you could be introducing those things from a fearful perspective into your child's life, where children who believe that they're safe and people who believe that they are continually having well-being and that surrounds them, they have more trust, and that trust turns into having more success. So for example, a child that's going to go and climb over that octagon at the playground, and the child who sees it and gets excited and runs over to it and tries it and finds out what their arms and their legs and their body can do, they're more likely to giggle and have fun and then climb off and then be done and go on to the next one. Whereas the child who is running off to that octagon and the parent is saying, you're not strong enough, you're not big enough, watch out for the other kids, don't let anyone step on your fingers, don't slide, is it wet, are your hands sweaty, don't fall, I think you're too young for that. If a child is sent off with all that ringing in their ear, it almost like forms like a tightness in their muscles, and they lose that innate trust in their body to do the thing that they're capable of doing. It helps kind of like separate them from their own agility. So they're more apt to fall, they're more apt to get hurt. But if you allow them to figure this stuff out and they trust in their own well-being and they explore on their own, there'll be less accidents and there'll be more trust in their body. It might not sound like that has anything to do with the spirituality of our being, but it is. because having a sense of well-being and trusting in our ability to explore, to expand, to grow, to wander, and to be free, it connects us to our inner wisdom. So basically, all other areas of a child's development will grow and mature in a way that supports their well-being and their happiness more when they have this overriding view that life is good and that it makes sense and that you can trust yourself. As far as the spiritual backdrop for them growing up, there's another part of this too, not just a sense of them as individuals being safe, being healthy, being abundant, and being free. But there's also more of a global awareness. Like, how does the piece of them fit into the bigger picture? And the bigger picture includes things like how we interact with people who are different than us. It also includes how we interact with the planet itself and with the plant community and with the animal community. That in our symbiotic, balanced relationship of harmony on the entire globe and the entire planet, we are significant. So when I was beginning this part of my journey and I was opening up to having my consciousness be in the energy realm and communicating with guides, I didn't have a context for any spiritual conversation. Maybe a little bit from the religion I was raised with in my family, but not much more than that. And someone said to me early on, it's like we're drops of water in the ocean. We're all connected. And I walked away from that and I thought about it. I thought, well, there's something beautiful about being all connected, but I also felt a limit. And I don't want to be like every other drop in the ocean. And I also don't want to dissolve into everything and become nothing. So that particular view of our interconnectedness made me feel insignificant. Part of a spiritual belief system is for our children to believe that they are significant. And believing that we are significant means that we believe we are worthy. It doesn't mean that we are superior. It means that we individually are significant. If I look around and I see the high levels of anxiety and depression and challenges that people have, people of all ages, I realize that a lot of it has to do with the fact that people haven't been connected to the idea that they matter, that whomever they are, that they are important. Having a spiritual background or belief system helps the child to develop that innate sense that superiority is not the answer, but inferiority doesn't need to exist. That every child in their own right, every person in their own right matters. Not because of what they do, not because of how they look, not because of their gender or preferences or skin color or religious background or ethnicity. That they matter simply because of who they are. That's one of the greatest values that your child can take away from having a strong spiritual belief system within their family. On that backdrop, if they're painting and the family is painting the canvas of their reality, they're more likely to stay steady and connected to optimism in any of the challenging times that they may experience. Now, this concept of the spiritual belief system based on unity and our global interaction with all of this earth and this whole earthly experience. It's a very big topic, and I do believe that it's worth delving into individual aspects of that a little bit more. So for now, I'm going to leave you with the ignition of the idea that having your children develop emotionally a connection to their own spiritual development, the context of something bigger matters. There's something more important and significant about them, and there's something more big and more important than the day-to-day experiences. Their life in the big picture is significant. I want to leave you with that thought And in my next video, we're going to take a bit of a deeper dive into some of those other aspects of community and interconnectedness. Thank you for joining me. I'm always so appreciative of your time and your attention and your comments and your likes. Stay connected and feel free to ask questions below or to leave your comments.